Hello everyone, welcome to this session. Our chapter is compounds of metals. And we're still discussing about the metal carbonates and the hydrogen carbonates. So far in our previous video, we saw the preparation or just the occurrence of these metal carbonates and the hydrogen carbonates. So that was one of what we discussed in our previous video. So today let's move on to the other part. We'll be discussing about the chemical properties of the metal carbonates. So here we see these various chemical properties of these metal carbonates. Starting with the first one, that is the reaction with the acids. So see how the metal carbonates they show this kind of property when they react. When these metal carbonates when they react with the acids. The carbonates and the hydrogen carbonates they react with the dilute acids to produce the carbon dioxide, salt, and water. So that is how these metal carbonates specifically and the metal hydrogen carbonates they react with acids. And for example, as you can see below, calcium carbonate plus this hydrochloric acids leads to carbon dioxide plus calcium chloride plus water. So that is an example. Also another example, this is sodium hydrogen carbonate plus this diluted sulfuric acid leads to carbon dioxide plus sodium sulfate plus water. So that's how they face this chemical property, how these metal hydrogen carbonates and carbonates they react with the acids. Moving on, let's see other chemical property, that is the action of heat. Excluding the sodium and the potassium carbonates, or other carbonates, they decompose on heating to form the oxides of the corresponding metals and the carbon dioxide. So this is the other chemical property on how these metal carbonates they show when they act to heat. When you exclude the sodium and the potassium carbonates, all the other carbonates they simply decompose on heating just to form the oxides of the corresponding metals and the carbon dioxide. For example, the lead carbonate, when it decomposes by heat, leads to this lead oxide plus carbon dioxide. A hydrogen carbonate, they decomposes to give the carbonate, carbon dioxide, and water. For example, the sodium hydrogen carbonates plus this sodium carbonate will lead to this water and the when it, not plus, when this sodium hydrogen carbonates when it decomposes, there's a minor mistake here. When it decomposes by action of heat, leads to this sodium carbonate plus water plus carbon dioxide gas. I hope that's clear. Now let's see the distinction between the carbonates and the hydrogen carbonates. So how can you distinguish between these two, the carbonates and the hydrogen carbonates? We can easily distinguish a carbonate from the hydrogen carbonate by the use of the magnesium sulfate. When the carbonate solution is added to the magnesium sulfate solution, a white precipitate of the magnesium carbonate is formed, as you can see in the reaction. The sodium carbonate plus this magnesium sulfate leads to magnesium carbonate plus sodium sulfate. So that's how you can distinguish. First, when a similar reaction is performed with the hydrogen carbonate solution, no white precipitate is formed. So you can distinguish by seeing that when you see the white precipitate, you may know that this is the carbonate, and when you don't see it, you may notice that it is hydrogen carbonate. As you can see in the reaction, the sodium hydrogen carbonates, when it reacts with this magnesium sulfate, it leads to magnesium hydrogen carbonate plus sodium sulfates. So there are no white precipitates that can be seen apart from when you react the metal carbonate with this magnesium sulfate. So this is because the magnesium hydrogen carbonate is soluble in water. So that's the reason. However, when the solution is boiled, the magnesium hydrogen carbonate it will decompose to give a white precipitate of the magnesium carbonate. So you can simply just obtain the precipitate of magnesium carbonate from the hydrogen carbonate by simply boiling the solution. As you can see in the reaction, the magnesium hydrogen carbonate, when it is boiled, will lead to this magnesium carbonate plus water plus carbon dioxide after boiling the solution. So that's all I have for this session. I hope that's all clear. We've seen these the chemical properties of the metal carbonates and these metal hydrogen carbonates, and we've seen how you can distinguish between the metal carbonates and the hydrogen carbonates. I hope that's all clear, and thank you.